Now, you mentioned Korchnoi, and we were discussing about
Sure.
ways to make a living as a chess
Yeah.
player as well. You became a coach as well at some point. Tell us a bit about that.
It was the very strangest story in my career. So I've won Vaikanze, and I started with a win against Victor Korchnoi and a win against Jan Timman.
This was in 1979, right?
80.
80.
In 1980. So I beat the two top seeds in rounds 1 and 2. It's like, wow, talk about getting off to a great start, right? Like, I mean, come on. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And somehow I went on to have a great result, including getting my Grandmaster title. And during the tournament, Victor would kind of come up to me and say, "Oh, what do you think about that game?" And I go, "Boom, boom, boom, boom." You go away. And he did this perpetually, don't talk during the game. But he would come up, yeah. So at the very end of the tournament, we're kind of getting towards the closing ceremony. I actually think we're about ready to walk to the closing ceremony. Victor says, "Yasser, I'd like to ask you a question." I said, "Sure." He says, "Would you like to be my second?" Now, the word second, by the way, is kind of unique to chess because it's sort of like there's a trainer, there's a coach.
Yeah.
But a second is very, very clear. Like, he wants to work with me as a trainer, and I'm going to be a kind of a vassal. I will, help Victor in his campaign for the World Championship. I was, as you could probably guess, stunned into silence. Why? I was thinking of one thing only. Can I afford this? How much am I going to have to pay Victor? Like to work with him? He completely misunderstood my silence. He said, oh, of course, I'm sorry. I pay all your expenses, all your travel, all your hotel costs, all your meals, and can we agree to 500 Swiss francs a week? Which, by the way, at the time was a lot of money. And it dawned on me that he was offering to pay me. I like mutely stuck out my hand. Deal, done. And from 1980, March of 1980, more or less, to Murano, the World Championship in 1981, I think I calculated that I spent like 14 months with Victor Korchnoi. And I got to tell you, it was unbelievable. I was 20 years old, 21. And Victor was double, maybe more my age. And I would be exhausted. Mm-hmm. His capacity for work was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It was like ridiculous. And I remember from March of 1980 to, let's call it June 1980, I worked with Victor for 3 months, and like every single day we would bash each other and blitz and argue over moves and positions, and we had some great clashes.
Do you feel like this improved your chess? Because
beyond measure. And I went to Malaga, Spain. I was invited by the Spanish Chess Federation to go to Malaga. And I had, for 3 consecutive months, like 90 days, been bashing my head every day with Victor Korchnoi. He was like the number 2 player in the world by far. There was no Garry Kasparov on the horizon. And I looked across at my opponents. You're not Victor Korchnoi. It was a mauling. It was just, and it was I was death incarnate. Like just went through this field like hot knife through soft butter. Victor pushed me beyond anything I would have ever expected of myself, and Victor thought badly of his capacity to work. Mm. He thought other players worked a lot harder on their chess than he did, and it was like he's trying to play catch up. I'm like, dude, who are you competing with? This is really bad.
Well, but he probably felt that he had to compete with the entire might of the Soviet chess system because he was fighting against Karpov.
That's precisely right.
And he was a defector, right?
Exactly.
So he had to fight against
Exactly.
The Soviet Union that really wanted to destroy him.
Correct. And he was very, very fortunate. He had Michael Steen as a longtime second. I became very, very close with Michael. I thought he was just really one of the world's good guys. Then much later in the cycle, Grandmaster Lev Gutman joined our team. And Lev was amazing. Like, I've never seen a greater researcher. Lev just, like, at the tip of his fingers, just had all of these games. And this was before databases, right?
And so these were notebooks, right?
Yes,
he was just
precisely.
like piling up notebooks and games and analysis.
Yeah.
Was he the one? Did you guys have like somebody designated with keeping notes of what you guys were analyzing?
I always kept notes from a very, very early age.
But you guys were analyzing, let's say, a position, the Grunfeld, right?
Yeah.
And somebody has to write everything that you guys were
Lev
analyzing.
did it on the spot.
On the spot.
I did it
on the spot.
I did it post.
Post.
Yeah, so I would write all my analysis afterwards.
But you will forget things here and there, right?
I kind of thought of it in a different way, rather like I got the cream. So like you were analyzing for 30 minutes.
The important variations.
Exactly,
right.
and we went on 3 false trails, but we found the right trail. And that was what I wrote down. So I remember this very vividly in Buenos Aires. Victor was playing against Lev Polygaevsky. And it was just a brutal adjournment. And Michael and I had really, really worked hard on it. I think we finished about 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't go to bed. I desperately wanted to go to bed. I wrote like 5-6 pages of analysis on the game, and I stuck it underneath Victor's door, his hotel door. Crashed. About 8 in the morning, there's like this ferocious knocking on the door, and it's Petra, his secretary. Later they married. Petra, Victor needs you. He needs you desperately. You've got to come. Like, okay, I'll shower. No, we need you now. We need you now. Come on, Petra. No, come on. So I'm in my PJs, rumpled hair, everything. I go staggering over to Victor's room. And Victor, what do I do if he does that? I was so pissed. I grabbed the notes out of his hand. You do this. Oh, so simple. Okay, you can go. Exactly at that moment, I'm at my worst. In comes this incredibly well-dressed man. Just beautiful, splendid, white hair. And just a bon vivant, full of life. He speaks Russian. He and Petra start bouncing around, jumping up and down, dancing around the room. He speaks Russian with Victor. They start hugging each other. They're bouncing around, sitting down around the room. He comes to me like he's going to grab me. He speaks to me in Russian. I go, I don't speak Russian. He goes, American. I go, yeah. And he goes, Rostropovich. So Rostropovich was the head of the Washington, D.C. Orchestra, one of the great defectors of the Soviet Union. He was playing a concert in Buenos Aires, and here I am in my PJs, looking like a complete idiot. I go, nice to meet you. And he goes, what are you doing here? I say, I'm that guy's trainer.
But to be frank, it was his fault.
Of course.
He didn't read your notes correctly.
Of course.
Now, you also said that you were bashing heads.
What were they so happy about?
Just two defectors coming
they were
together
excited to
and
meet each other.
sharing
Okay.
their life. And apparently they knew each other at one time in the Soviet Union, that Victor had attended one of his concerts. And it was like pretty hilarious.